How's it going, everybody? It's Pilot Fan. We are back with another FPL video, and today we're going to be looking at price predictions for midfielders this week. I have 4 of them, just like the Defenders and Goalkeepers edition, so make sure to check those out as well. Links are in the description. But without further ado, let's get into the midfielders. So the first midfielder we have on the list here is Kevin De Bruyne. He ended the season with a whopping 251 points. I believe that was top for any player in the entire FPL season, with 13 goals, 23 assists, absolutely mental, and he was around 50% by the time the season ended and averaged 7.2 points by the end of the season. His price when he came into the season was 9.5 million, and that was mainly due to the fact that he was injured for the vast majority of the 2018-2019 season. So I definitely expect him to see a price increase this season. He was getting very close to 11 million, and he probably would have gone past that if the season had continued past the 38 games. I expect him to come in at 11.5 million because of his creativity, his distribution, his goal threat. He's going to be on penalties as well. That's another thing that we have to kind of consider. Probably Aguero will be on penalties when he's on the field, but I think they may just give it to De Bruyne anyway, because I think long term he's going to be the captain most likely, with David Silva leaving the team. Yes, they'll probably give it to Fernandinho, but again, he's up in age as well. So I think De Bruyne is probably going to be their future captain for the next few seasons. And I think with him being on penalties, yes, they'll give it to Aguero when he's on the pitch, but De Bruyne will probably play more minutes than Aguero will, because Aguero tends to get injured. At least he has in his latter years. And I think that De Bruyne is going to be one who plays 90 minutes pretty much every game, whereas Aguero is more likely to get substituted. So I think that form of aspect will make his price go up, as well as the likelihood of him having the captain's armband and taking those penalties, which is quite important because a midfielder, you get 1 extra point for scoring a goal, and with penalties that will add to his total. So if De Bruyne had been on penalties for the entire season, he may have been around the 17 to 20 goal mark there, rather than being a lot lower on the list. And also City kind of went through some struggles with penalties. They had the likes of Gundogan, Sterling, Aguero, Kevin De Bruyne. All of those players took a penalty and missed one from what I can remember. I don't think De Bruyne missed one, but the other 3 definitely did. And I think that De Bruyne has shown he's the most consistent in terms of just set pieces. That's another thing. He's on corners. He's on free kicks as well. So that kind of goes into his price point. And he will kind of be like our benchmark as to where we price certain other midfielders that we have on this list as well. So I think he's going to come in 11.5 million, but I think he's still going to be great value, especially if City have good fixtures at the start of the 2020-2021 season. Next up on our list, we have Phil Foden, another Manchester City mid who was priced at 5.5 million at the start of the season. Only racked up just shy of 70 points with 5 goals, 2 assists, only being owned by 6% by the end of the season, and averaged 3 points per game. And this is mainly due to the fact that he came on a lot in the earlier parts of the season, especially before lockdown, where he came on and played 10 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 3 minutes here, 7 minutes there, 1 minute here, and he only gets 1 point in those sorts of games. But when he has started, he has done quite well for himself, especially when he plays past 60 minutes, and I think he will definitely see a price increase, as City's mids will be a lot more expensive going into the next season with their 102 goals this season. And Foden will definitely be a part of that next season, being able to start more games. And with the leaving of Leroy Sané, as it were, he's gone off to Bayern Munich, and Foden will get a full season now under his belt. He can play a multitude of positions. He can play out left, he can play out right, he can play false 9, he can play in the 10, and he can play in a midfield 3 on either side as an 8, especially if De Bruyne is in there as well. So I think his output will be, up there with the likes of potentially Riyad Mahrez if he gets similar time, and he's going to be a great talent. I think him alongside Mason Greenwood are 2 players that Manchester just fans in general, whether it be City or United, have a lot of looking forward to for these 2 types of players, and they're definitely going to be stars in the future. And I think Foden's price will go up to probably around 8 million. I can see it being 7.5 as well, but I think 8 will probably be more, kind of the lower end mark for their midfielders. I think Bernardo Silva may go up to that as well, but I can definitely see them sitting around 7.5. Both Silvas were 7.5 this season to start, and Mahrez was 8.5, I believe, to start, where Sane was 9.5 because of the season he had in the 2018-2019 season. Obviously, with Sane being left, they kind of have to bump up the prices on a few of their players because they know there's going to be less options. And depending on who City bring in the transfer window with no financial fair play in place, you can see them potentially bringing in some more backup in that position. But I think Foden will go up to around 8 million. Probably 7.5 is more reasonable. I've gone with 8 million here, and I think he's going to definitely be a good asset in the next FPL season. Now, with Kevin De Bruyne being the benchmark at 11.5 million, I think that Bruno Fernandes will also be the same price. His average points this season over the games that he played in January when he came in and start of February, 8.4 points per game. It's absolutely insane. 16 goal involvements with 8 goals, 8 assists, and 117 points across those games. His own percentage was 1 in 4 teams or thereabouts by the time the season finished. That was mainly because a lot of people got rid of him on the free hit going into the final game week because they thought Leicester was a tough fixture, but he ended up scoring in that as well because he is on penalties, he's on most set plays, and he's kind of been the savior really for Manchester United in the post-lockdown era of this Premier League season. His price when he came in was 8 million. I think he's going to be bumped way up. He's going to be either 11 or 11.5. I think he's going to be priced the exact same as Kevin De Bruyne. They both play very similar-ish roles for their teams. They're going to be getting a lot of the assists. De Bruyne was on penalties. Whether he stays on that, we'll have to see, but I think Fernandes is definitely going to be on penalties for United. He's the best taker out of all of them that we've seen, and he's just ice cold basically. He's going to be always involved. He's going to never stop trying, and he could potentially be the future captain for Manchester United. Obviously, he's on Harry Maguire right now and has been for the pretty much the whole season, but I think that Bruno may be the one to kind of get the armband sooner rather than later, because he's more of a, you know, that type of midfield leader, that type of Roy Keane-esque, the one who's going to basically tell people what to do. He's going to instruct them on the pitch, and you kind of want your one of, if not your best player, to be the captain in a sense. And you know, it's typically a central role, so someone who's either a center defensive midfielder, a center mid, the striker, the goalkeeper, or the center back. One of those people down the spine of your team is typically the captain, and Fernandes fits that bill, and I think he could see the captaincy in some games and potentially be as the permanent captain for Manchester United moving forward. But in terms of FPL, 11.5 million, don't be scared by the price point. He's still going to be insane next season, and I think he's going to be a great FPL asset even with his massive price increase that we can definitely expect. And the last midfielder we have on our list is Nikola Pepe from Arsenal. He only had 106 points this season, which was actually less than Bruno Fernandes after he only played basically the second half of the season. Pepe scored 5 goals with 6 assists, only was owned by 3% of players, and maintained a quite low ownership for the majority of the season. His average points was 3.4, which isn't great for somebody who was priced at 9.5 million to start the season. I think you'll see a price decrease, and with his performance showing in the FA Cup final how good he actually was, he was probably man of the match, I would think. If Pulisic had stayed on the field, it could have been a different story there in terms of how the game played out or who would have been man of the match, but both players were on fire in that game, and I think Pepe could see a price decrease because of the way Arsenal positioned in the table, as well as their inconsistencies that they did have. You know, these types of things can happen with injuries or players that are underperforming, or maybe they overshot the price. But I think Pepe, with more game time and with the 3-4-3 system that Arteta is implementing, I think we can definitely see the best of him in the next season, with Arsenal potentially strengthening their defense and, you know, their defensive midfielder in behind. Going into this transfer window, I think that definitely bolsters well for if Aubameyang re-signs, and it helps out Lacazette because he has more defensive solidity and gets more of the ball, and Pepe is free to basically express himself out on the right hand side. And he showed a few tricks in the FA Cup, which was quite nice to see for somebody who's been scrutinized and, you know, been kind of under the cosh when he came in. You know, this very massive price tag, it has to be paid in installments because of how expensive he was and all that sort of stuff. But I think we'll definitely see a better Pepe next season, and I think you have to look for his price going into next season, because if it's lower than 9 million, I think he could be quite good for Arsenal, especially if they start off with a good few fixtures. If they bring in the likes of the rumored Thomas Partey, who's going to be solid in behind them. Maybe they bring in another center back who's just going to be that stalwart that they need in the back line. I think that Pepe could definitely flourish next season. I would say to basically kind of check his price and see what he's going to be priced at going into the start of the season. If they have a few good fixtures, game week 1 through 4, maybe a punt to bring him in, especially if he's going to be around the 8.5 million mark, which is going to be something that we're going to have to kind of pay attention to, because a lot of midfielders and a lot of forwards are going to go up in price, and there's going to be a lot less kind of value that we can have going into the start of the season because of our lower budgets. And it always is the case. We'll say, oh, well, we can't fit in these players, they're too expensive, so on and so forth. But Pepe may be that type of player that we kind of fit in as kind of the mid-priced midfielder spot. And if Arsenal have good fixtures, it'd be definitely worth bringing him in the first few game weeks. And that's going to do it for this edition of price predictions for our midfielders here. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new. And make sure to turn those notification bells on so that you can get the content as soon as it is readily available. Leave a comment down below as to who you think is going to change in price. And also, make sure to follow us on all of our social platforms, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as well. Twitter is where we post our YouTube videos and when we go live on Twitch. And Twitch is where we're going to be doing a gaming stream this week, Tuesday, coming up, and we'll redo our game week previews for FPL when it is in full swing. You can see just below me, it's PilotFlame226, so make sure to follow us on those platforms. Links are also in the description below. And with that, hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next video, take care.